Is there any trade that you can discern from the hour and 25 minutes that we just heard from the president?
No, I don't know that there would have been, actually. I feel like what was going on in the markets and was sort of the big story of the day. I didn't. So nothing really made me feel that something dramatic was going to happen as a result of this. But all that having been said, I thought it was sort of a very interesting day in the market. And we started to see, it wasn't a panic yet, but we started to see volatility index tick up. And, clearly that last hour was a bad one. So I think we could be looking at a very interesting day tomorrow, maybe a turnaround day. I don't know.
Yeah, it really did sort of start to slip away. I was on the air in the 2 to 3 p.m. hour, and things were starting to move and slide. And this feels more and more, Guy, like a little bit of a mudslide. You can't get out of the way of it. I mean, there are places where you can make some money, I guess, some individual companies that were moving higher. But generally speaking, this felt a little bit like a mudslide.
Yeah, mudslide, great drink, by the way. If you want to go to Tim's bar, I'm sure one of his bar keeps will make that. And Tyler, listen, you mentioned how rare it is to have a Biden press conference. Even more rare, our ability to have TV time with you, which is always a gift.
Thank you.
You asked Karen what the trades are. Look, I'll give you two. I think energy, he's poking the bear clearly. And I think this thing with Russia, my sense is it gets worse before it gets better. And I think all things continue to point to the energy trade. And just sort of tangentially, he mentioned the ability to do things in cyber world. I think cybersecurity is still front and center. So those are my two takeaways.
That's interesting. And Tim, you spent a lot of time studying Russia and investing there. And so I'm very interested in your perspective on what's going on in Ukraine. The president certainly indicated that he didn't think Putin had made up his mind yet. But he certainly did indicate that he thinks he's going to do something. You don't come this far. Big countries, he said at one point, don't do small things or something to that effect. I wonder what you think the effect of an incursion into Ukraine would be on global stock markets.
Well, I think there would be obviously a spike in the price of oil. There would probably be a rally in the dollar. There'd probably be a dynamic with yields that actually might bring yields down a bit. But you asked about Putin's intentions in Ukraine, and just we could spend 3 hours on this and not even have gotten to the surface. Simply, Russia and Putin feel that Ukraine and even Belarus are part of the Russian sphere. They see that NATO backed up to their back door is, a great insult and something similar to how we might feel if someone was doing that in Puerto Rico. So, I think the relevancy of Putin in the global world is something I think he continues to try and fight for. And I think this is about also trying to maintain his power base in Russia, which, without that rule, I think Putin has major issues in the next regime in Russia. So, look, that's the story here. And I think in terms of Biden and some of the things that I think we're focused on today in the speech, foreign policy is certainly a place where I think there's been some concern. The clumsy exit from Afghanistan, I know it was discussed. I'm sure there's plenty of reasons why. But I think when you think about the Biden presidency as it relates to markets, the biggest issues are related to COVID and then really inflation and the Federal Reserve. And it's with some irony that if you think about the Biden administration is actually going to have to deal with the aggressive Fed that the Trump administration was, lashing out at the entire time. And to Jerome Powell's credit, I think reasserted the independence of the central bank. But it's this central bank right now that's putting a lot of pressure on the market, which we know puts pressure on the president's popularity.
But eventually, Powell didn't, am I remembering correctly, Tim, didn't eventually Mr. Powell kind of reverse course there? I remember the fall of 2018 or 2019, I can't remember. But it was in the fall there, right around October. The market was not reacting well. And then by December, he'd kind of did a little bit, Powell did a little bit of a pivot. Before we move on to our first guest, Steve Grasso, I'll give you the final word here. Pick it up wherever you'd like. You can talk about his comments about the Fed and inflation and that he seems to want the Fed to bear down on inflation and bear the brunt of making sure that it does not become entrenched.
Sure, that's the macro, that's the overarching. But what I think many of us have forgotten is he did get past a $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal before the holidays. So there might be a Build Back Never plan, or it might be cut up. But you have to look at Caterpillar, John Deere, URI. URI definitely underperformed. Cat's up 10% in the month. URI is down 7%. Cat's actually chart looks a lot better than the rest. But pick up where Tim left off. Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Northrop. All of these names are your Russia-Ukraine bets. China, Taiwan bets after the Olympics when maybe when they lift their head up a little bit. But yes, Russia, Ukraine, General Dynamics up 4% in the month. Lockheed up probably around the same amount. So I would say those charts, defense, aerospace, are probably where you want to be off of that.